fourth difference between in-person communication and remote communication: spontaneity. If you're wondering what the other three differences are because you haven't followed up on the episodes, they are differences in subject, in attention, and in channels. If you're curious, take a look at the previous videos or listen to the previous episodes. Now, back to the topic. What do I mean that spontaneity is different between communicating in person and remotely? I mean that if you don't consider just a single Zoom call, but the way we interact and communicate in person and remotely, well, you have the chance to, when you're chatting in person in a professional environment, maybe to just go to one of your team members and go get a coffee together, or just talk about how your weekend went, or just have some informal, chilled communication. And while that doesn't serve any specific purpose for a project, for example, it's a big part of how we engage and communicate with each other. And if you think about it, remote communication isn't the same thing. It is always planned. It is always agreed upon. We don't just pick up the phone, call up one of our team members and start talking about football. Well, maybe the person is just doing something else, and that's just not a way to behave in general. So if that's the case, if every single interaction in a hybrid or remote setup is more formalized, well, that also carries with it all the weight of what a formal conversation is. So literally less spontaneous, less transparent, with some more structures that maybe block a better engagement between you and the other person. And maybe that doesn't have any specific effect on just the Zoom call that you're doing or what you're trying to get out of it. It may have an effect on the general team vibe, on how much your team members may feel alienated or connected to you and to the others. So my suggestion for this is to start, first of all, reminding yourself to communicate a bit more emotions in general. You know, the 20% extra we talked about beforehand, keep that in mind. Making a bit more of an emotional connection will help. And second, and if this sounds weird to some of you, I get it, set up a weekly one-to-one with each and every team member. And for half an hour, they have the possibility of speaking to you about whatever they want. It's a half an hour that you use just for them. You started just by asking, how are you? How is it going? And then you let the person choose what direction the conversation should go. Sure, you can also keep it professional to a certain extent. It depends on how you feel connected to it. And if we start talking about one-to-ones, we can open a whole world. But think about whether you have a, formalized half an hour agreed upon of time in which the other person can be even a bit spontaneous and transparent with you. Maybe it won't make a major difference for each project, but for sure it will make a major difference for a remote communication environment. What do you think? Let me know. Thank you. Stay safe. Talk soon.